The Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, working towards the weekend. Kind of starts tonight. Got some baseball, actually a lot of baseball action in the SEC, but one we're specifically keyed in on. It'll be LSU and South Carolina. Very, very interesting series for a number of reasons. We'll talk about that throughout the show today. 15 minutes from now, we'll talk to Luke Johnson about the Saints schedule that was released last night. Joe Healy will be along in 30 minutes. I can't wait for that conversation because the amount of possibilities in the Southeastern Conference over the next 3 days is not infinite, but it seems infinite. There's so much that can go on, so many series that are so crucial to so many teams for so many reasons. We'll get into a lot of that with Joe at 1:30. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, will join us coming up at 2:15. Koki Riley at 2. No, Koki Riley's tomorrow, and I just texted him to confirm we're doing that tomorrow. So I got to text him and go, we're going to call it, because I'm talking to Chris from Columbia today, Koki tomorrow. We'll get that straightened out. That's what happens. You try to rush a text message as your intro's playing. You might do it on the wrong day, which is what I just did.
Yeah, you should probably just avoid texting, like, at that
right
time.
At that point. Well,
yeah.
I thought I was giving him a heads up, and then it turns out I was giving him a 25-hour heads up instead of a 1 hour.
Yeah,
heads
and
up.
you got to be careful with Chris Blair, because a couple of weeks ago when you were out and Taylor was filling in, I called him on Wednesday, and he just answered because he told me he doesn't know what day it is of the week. So
yeah.
you have to make
especially
sure.
when sometimes there's Thursday series, sometimes Friday
you gotta
series.
specify.
I'll be completely honest. This is probably not the case for most people with their jobs today. I feel like it's Friday. Because,
I do too, actually.
Because LSU plays tonight, and it just feels like Friday. So I don't know. But it's not. It's Thursday. So we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. And we'll start today the way we start every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, LSU and South Carolina tonight from Columbia. We have laid out all week kind of the stakes for the weekend. I am comfortable, if not confident, in telling you that 2 out of 3 will be enough for LSU to secure a national seed. In saying that, I'm well aware that there are a lot of variables here, and we'll get into all that certainly on tomorrow's show. And then on Monday, I'll kind of give you how I really feel moving into conference tournament week. But it feels like LSU needs to get 2 this weekend. And it feels like LSU should get 2 this weekend. Let's talk about LSU's pitching plans for the weekend first, and we'll talk more about South Carolina later. Yesterday, Jay Johnson announced that he's going to TBA today, which he's already made that decision and let Pulmonary know. We don't know it yet, but we know that that's happened. And then tomorrow, Kate Anderson will go on normal rest, and then Saturday, Anthony Ianson will go on normal rest. And I said on Monday that's what I would do this week. There are a number of reasons for that. One, full rest. Kate Anderson was removed from his start due to wrist discomfort on Friday of last week. I don't need to force that issue. Anthony Ianson has thrown a ton of pitches. They've been great pitches, but he's thrown a ton of them over the last 2 weeks, so let's get him on full rest. That's one piece of it. Number 2, South Carolina does not have an arm that you have to match up against. You need to throw Kate Anderson on Thursday night in Norman, Oklahoma against the Sooners. Why? Because Kyton Witherspoon is pitching in that game, and if you want to win that game, you need to hold Oklahoma down. And Kate Anderson threw a complete game shutout in doing so. But that had to happen if you were planning on being competitive in that game. And that happens a lot in the SEC when you're facing a true ace. South Carolina does not have one. So you don't have to match up. The other piece to this is psychological. And this may be just me. I don't know if Jay Johnson considered this at all. My guess is probably not, but it's how I feel, so I'll communicate that to you. If LSU wins tonight, then you've got Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson the next 2 days, and you need a split. That's a pretty good spot to be in. If LSU loses tonight, then you've got Kate Anderson tomorrow, and that's a pretty good spot to be in. And if you can win that one, you got Anthony Ianson going to win the series and get that top 8 seed sewn up, and that's a pretty good spot to be in. So all of this makes so much sense on so many levels. The question becomes now, not are you going to do this? It's who are you going to pitch in the game tonight? I wrote a preview story on LouisianaSports.net. I gave you 3 names on LouisianaSports.net. Jaden Newt is one of them. Connor Ware is a second. And Zach Cowan is a third. Jaden Newt has gotten LSU off to some pretty good starts in midweek play. He's thrown up to upwards of 60 pitches. He generally throws a lot of strikes. And I think is a fine option to get LSU 9 outs tonight, if that's what they want to do. Connor Ware had such a great start against Dallas Baptist. The line score was good. The stuff was good. If you watched it that night in Globe Life, like he really looked good. And then that never really showed back up from a starting perspective. But he's thrown it okay in some spot work in the last 3 weeks. They called on him to get Laviolette out in College Station in the last game, and he made a pretty good pitch, and he got a swinging bunt. But it was a hit. But I think Ware's fine. If you want to go with him, I think that's okay for 9, 10 outs. And Zach Cowan's very interesting. I simply would not do that. I feel like he would give you a great chance to get off to a really good start through 5 innings. But then you've burned him. Now, you have to add to that part of the discussion that Kason Evans is not slated to start a game this weekend. So if you're wildly concerned with burning Cowan, you could still have Kason Evans to close for Anderson or close for Ianson or close tonight when Cowan exits. You could do that. All of those I'm not wildly opposed to. Like, there are only a couple of names that I would be just vehemently opposed to. Like, I don't want to start William Schmidt in this game. That's a big spot for a young guy who's never done it and has had some issues with command. I have infinitely high hopes for William Schmidt as a member of the program. This is probably not the spot that I want to toss him into. The one name I didn't bring up, and it was probably a mistake on my part, and I should have written this at LouisianaSports.net, and I will say it now on the show. Chase Shores is a viable option. Now, LSU played on Sunday, and he pitched on Sunday, and that's only 3 days rest. But it wasn't as if he was overextended. So I don't know how they think he'll respond to that or how they feel about it. That is certainly an option. And if they decide to start Chase Shores in this game and feel like he can give them 60 pitches, I think that's perfectly fine too. There are very few options, as I just mentioned, that shouldn't work out against South Carolina. And who you throw first doesn't dictate how you have to manage the back half of the game tonight. Like, if you throw Cowan, for example, you feel like 5 innings is a real possibility. Throw Shores, 4 or 5 innings is a real possibility. If you throw Newt, you're probably not getting 5 innings. But at some point, somebody's going to have to come out of the game, and you can decide who you want to go to in those high leverage or low leverage spots as they present themselves. Clearly, the ideal path here is that you start someone like Ware or Newt, who gets you off to a really good start. The offense does what Auburn and Florida did to South Carolina, and all of a sudden you look up in the 5th inning and it's 8-1, and you feel like you can mix and match and get Rizzi in there and get Primo in there, and maybe you can get through this game without using Cowan, without using Evans, without using Ianson, without using Anderson, and you've got Friday and Saturday loaded for bear. But you can't mess around. If you get a chance to win the game, I'm going to need Zach Cowan in the game or Kason Evans in the game, especially if it's tight. It's going to be a feel thing for Jay Johnson. I don't know that there's a significant matchup thing at play here. I don't know that there's a defined path to get through this thing. It's just a matchup that you're more talented than them no matter who you throw out there. Your offense should show up in numbers and produce and score 8 or 9 runs in this game because everybody else is on South Carolina. And you just play it accordingly. Now, the final piece of this is what would I do from a pitching perspective? I would start Jaden Newt tonight. I don't think throwing a third-year college player, I know he hasn't pitched a lot, but he's a third-year college player out there who throws a ton of strikes against a team that doesn't have a lot of pop in its lineup. And keep in mind that Newt has been extended a little bit to 40, 50, 60 pitches. And I would throw Jaden Newt out there with the hopes, I probably wouldn't tell him this, but with the hopes, okay, is there any way that you can get me through 3 innings pretty clean? 3 innings, 1 run. And at that point, you can reassess. If you feel at that point you've got a lead and you feel really good about the way that Chase Shores is throwing the ball to the bullpen, you want to go there, great. And then Shores can get you to one of the high leverage arms if you need it, or if you break the game open, you can go to some of the lesser arms. If Newt throws and it kind of blows up on you, then you use some of the lesser arms. And you keep everything full speed ahead for Friday and Saturday. There's not a lot of evidence to suggest Newt's going to blow up on you. If he doesn't blow up against Northwestern State or Nichols or Southeastern, I don't think he's going to blow up against South Carolina without Ethan Petrie. It's certainly possible. LSU knocked Gage Wood all over the place this past weekend. And from a stuff perspective, Wood's sensational. Some guys just don't have it. But I think Newt is a relatively safe play with a little bit of upside. And you're not really pushing a lot of chips toward the middle of the table if Newt's the guy you start. So that's what I would do. I think some of those midweek starts have kind of groomed him for this. I feel like there's a reasonable chance Jay Johnson does it. Would I be stunned to see Zach Cowan and Chase Shores in this game to start? No, I wouldn't be stunned. But we'll see. It's the first time Jay's done this year. Cade Anderson started every single one of the game ones this year. Anthony Ianson has started every single one of the game twos this year. So it's going to be different, and we'll just have to see what that inclination is that Jay Johnson has got on this Thursday. We're working towards it. 6 o'clock first pitch from out in Columbia. That's Central Time here, 6 o'clock. So if you want to listen to it, you can on Eagle 98.1, our sister station. Pregame fires up at 5:30. It'll be Chris Blair and Bill Franquez on the call. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef, some of the best beef in the world, just north of Baton Rouge. Be telling about it all day long. But it's phenomenal stuff. My guy Sean Sagrera is fanatical about what he's doing. And if you're looking to get your freezer during grilling season, it's time to get in the backyard, fire up that pit, and get to work on the fillets, ribeyes, strips, on your hamburgers, anything that you want. From a beef perspective, Sagrera Farms has got you covered. And I just invite you to call Sean, 719-1723. That's 719-1723. Again, we'll be talking about Sagrera Farms all day today and the incredible things that they're doing just north of Baton Rouge. But wanted to get Sean's number right out of the gate here. If you're interested in some of the finest beef literally in the world, 719-1723. That is Sean Sagrera's number up at Sagrera Farms. Luke Johnson talking schedule next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. If you're thinking maybe it's time to get in a new vehicle before we hit the road as a family for the summer vacation, whether you're heading to the beach or somewhere else, and you're thinking it's probably time to get some new wheels before we do that, put Genesis on your list. I promise you will be more than impressed when you walk onto the lot, you meet with their team, you see the facility, and you get behind the wheel and experience their entire line. From the sedan all the way up to the SUV, from the entry level to the highest end. It's all just phenomenal stuff. When I say Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should think luxury vehicle, because that's what it is. When I say luxury vehicle, don't just turn it off and go, can't afford that. You won't know until you look. And the Genesis model is a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're at Airline at Pico, where you can start that buying process today online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Working towards the weekend. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Joe Healy talking SEC baseball 15 minutes from right now. Yesterday, schedule reveal day in the NFL. All the teams have their 17-game slate set in stone. And one guy that's going to be getting to bed at a reasonable hour every single weekend this coming fall is Luke Johnson, covers the Saints for The Advocate, joins us on Thursdays. Luke, no primetime games. Are you stunned?
No. I'm the only thing that was surprising is that they have as much in like the afternoon slot, which like I just kind of figured I was going to be covering a season where they had like 14 noon games, you know, which is kind of what last year was. It was like nothing but noon games with like 2 primetime games. Makes sense. So, but no, not even remotely surprised that they don't have any primetime games because they're like not a fascinating team right now. I think maybe they got a little bit more interesting after Derek Carr retired. You know, they're probably going to be starting a rookie quarterback, but I think that happened way too late in the game for anybody in the network to really care about it.
And I don't know if they really want to put that on TV anyway, unless it's, you know, the first overall pick. A second rounder is probably not going to move the needle a ton. I mean, usually on this day, we start talking about how you match up here and what about this short week and can you bounce back there? And like, oh, there's the 3 road games in a row. And like, does any of that matter for this Saints team?
I don't think so. I kind of felt a little bad last week when we were on our podcast and somebody's asked me what the best case scenario was. I'm like, is there one? Does it really matter? I mean, I don't think it necessarily does. The fact is that Vegas put their over under, point spread totals out for all 18 games for all 32 NFL teams, and the Saints are favored in 1 game. I think they're going to be a little bit better than that. I think they're going to be better than a 1-win team, but I don't think the way the schedule plays out really necessarily matters for this team.
I don't either. But I would say this, kind of to juxtapose it against a different point, is that it's a team that needs some young players to step up, and you'd probably rather do that against a schedule that's not the most brutal in the league. And when I look at the schedule, I realize it's the NFL, everybody's good, and you can't really account for injuries, but it's a fairly forgiving schedule. They have some some spot. It doesn't look that difficult, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Do you find it that way?
I think it's a little bit harder. Look, it's a last place schedule, right? Like
yes.
they're going to face teams that struggled last year. I think they're like the total win percentage of the teams on their schedule from last year's teams, like it was like 42%, something like that. But like I think the 49ers are going to be better. I think the Cardinals have potential to be good. I think the Bears have potential to be a lot better with Ben Johnson. I think the division got better. Like there's a lot of things that like it's not like a super difficult schedule when you're looking at it just like face value. But I think it's more difficult than it's like a normal fourth place schedule would be.
And then the question, I guess, maybe the biggest thing that you would look for here is there like last year the front was so loaded. And if you say they signed a veteran quarterback, you might want to stick him out there for the first month and then go to the rookie when things lighten up, talking about last year's schedule. This year, do you feel like it's probably just send Tyler Shough out there at 26-year-old and let him sink or swim?
I mean, as long as he shows he's that guy in training camp, yeah. I don't know what you're going to really get out of if you think he's the guy. I don't know what you're going to get out of putting Spencer Rattler out there just to throw Shough in later. And I think, especially because you're looking at this as the team, I don't think is necessarily completely locked into Tyler Shough next year, right? Like if he goes out there and he's like doesn't show a bunch of promise, like there's nothing preventing you from taking an early draft pick next season. So I don't see the point in like delaying his arrival if he's the guy you think is the starter.
This is a ridiculous question to ask in May, but I'm prone to those, as you well know at this point. How do you think the Superdome is going to react to this season?
I actually think that at least early on, which is like weirdly when most of their home games are, I mean, I think there's going to be some optimism, at least like maybe not optimism like, yeah, we're going to be a good team this year, but like optimism like, hey, it's something new and different. And it's like the two guys that were hated most by the fan base are gone, Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. It's a chance to see what Kellen Moore can do. It's a chance to see what a rookie quarterback can do maybe. And I think there's going to be at least some excitement to see what it looks like. Who knows how long that lasts? If it's a disaster early, maybe we're back to people showing up to the dome with bags in their heads this year. I don't know. But I think there's at least a chance for this to be early on, like some good atmospheres in the Superdome, some good vibes in the Superdome, and we'll see if it holds up over the course of the year.
Because I'll paint this picture like week one, you've got Arizona, who I don't think is going to be a great team. Like they could be better than they were last year. Like Kyler Murray's fine, whatever. Like I don't think they're going to be great. And then you've got San Francisco, who could be very good, obviously. But then your third and fourth home games are the Giants and the Patriots, who were terrible last year. And then you go to the end of the season when maybe Shough's starting to find a little bit of traction and got people who have put the playoff hopes potentially away, and you're just trying to see if there's some development in a quarterback. And you play the Panthers and the Jets, who I don't think are going to be very good. So, like, there's a potential for some early season decent vibes with some lesser teams, and then late in the season, maybe as the pressure cooker goes away, you could see some decent performances to kind of push this team into what we hope to be an exciting and encouraging offseason next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the hope, right? And I said that we just got done recording a podcast, and I said this on our show today that like I don't think anybody should be going into this with expectations that they're going to be like a competitive, potential like playoff dark horse team. I think that'd be unrealistic and unreasonable to take all these things that we don't know about Kellen Moore as a head coach, Tyler Shough as a quarterback, what this Brandon Staley defense is going to, and assume all of it's going to look good. But while I think you should go into the season with low expectations, I think there's a chance that they outpace those expectations, and that Tyler Shough is ready to be a good quarterback as a rookie, and that Kellen Moore is ready to be an NFL head coach, and that Brandon Staley is still that dude as a defensive play caller. So like, early growing pains, I would totally expect it, but like I think that to your point, like by the end of the season, like it could look good, and it could give you some kind of optimism for what this could be later on, as this team kind of grows together.
We'll see. This is another ridiculous question, but you got a thought on a win total potentially as now that you kind of looked at it on paper and what the schedule will actually look like week to week?
Yeah, so we just did this exercise today, and I picked him at 6 wins, which I feel like is probably on like the high end of where I would like if I'm just picking like a win-loss total at this stage of the year. It's probably on the high end, but like I feel like somewhere between 4 and 6, right? And with like optimism that they could potentially supersede that. We'll see. There's just, like I said, so much like potential variance with this team. But if like Kellen Moore is the goods, and if Tyler Shuck is okay, and if they stay healthy, if it could look a lot better. I just don't think you should be expecting that.
That might be the sweet. I haven't even thought about this, but now that you say it, my brain starts spinning. If they were to win 6 games, that would indicate that, because they don't have more talent than 6 of the teams they're going to play. And if they do that, the quarterback's got to function, and the coach probably does a decent job, and you're probably got a pretty good pick in next year's draft. And like that, I mean, it's if you win 2 games, that's hard to like bring a ton of optimism out of. And even though you would pick high in the draft, and I don't expect them to win 10 games. I think that's unreasonable. So like 6, that might be like a sweet spot of like, okay, that was a transition year. It wasn't a lot of fun, but like there's some optimism there.
Yeah. I think you could talk me into like a 5 or 6 win season with some good points that you can build on. And there's going to be a room for this team to really legitimately add to the roster in the next 2 seasons. So just like whatever the records are this year, to quote Mickey Loomis, we'll look beyond the record this year, and just focus on like, did you show me some signs of growth, something you can build around? Did you hit on this draft class? Are there good young players on this roster? I think there are more good young players on this roster than there have been in a while, but like they're unproven. So just show me that there's something there with these guys, and that this coaching staff has what it takes to lead a successful NFL franchise. Even if that results in a 5 or 6 win season, that's okay, because at least gives me a little bit of optimism for the future.
You mentioned you all just recorded a podcast. Let everybody know where they can find that.
Yeah, you can find it on all of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, and we also do we stream it on YouTube. So that should post about 3:00 today at saints@nola.com.
Awesome. We appreciate the time, Luke. Thanks, man.
My pleasure, man. Talk to you later.
He is Luke Johnson, covering the black and gold. Looking at the schedule, and I wasn't going to do 2 segments on the Saints schedule today, because I think that it may merit that if they were coming off an NFC Championship berth. They've got a first-time head coach and a rookie quarterback, so I'm not going to do that. But I can see a world where you start to maybe turn a corner after the bye, and you've got a week 15 at home against the Panthers, week 16 at home against the Jets, and then week 17 at the Titans. Like, those 3 teams figure not to be very good, and maybe that's kind of where you start to see some positivity moving towards the future. And I think if the Saints go 6-11 and 3 of those wins come in the last 4 weeks, and you start to see Shook, look like a guy that can maybe help, and Kellen Moore looks representative of a coach that has got some things figured out and is moving things in the right direction, and you got 6 wins, so you're probably picking in the top 6 of the draft, and you may be able to add a big-time piece right there, and then all of a sudden a lot of money starts getting freed up with Derek Carr being gone, and all of a sudden, like, you may start to push off the dock here. You're very firmly, like, tethered to the dock right now. There's a path here, and it's optimistic, I think, to find a way off. And so we'll see if the Saints can do that moving forward. If you're looking for our Saints content, you can always find it Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcast, and certainly on YouTube. I love telling you about Sagrera Farms premium beef. My guy Sean Sagrera is awesome. He is fanatical, and he has got something very, very special going on up in Ethel, 30 miles away from here. It is some of the top beef in the world. I'm not exaggerating, and it's not a guess. It's proven fact. They had a vet come out a couple of weeks ago to do some ultrasounds on their calves. I told you this last week and the week before, but if you talk about the scores for beef, and you talk about select beef, which is under 4% intramuscular fat content, you look at choice beef, which is 4 to 8, and you look at prime beef, which is 9. Prime beef is the good stuff. You all know you've had a good steak. Prime, that's the good stuff, 9% or more. They've got cows walking around Sagrera Farms right now that are 12, 14, 17% on the intramuscular fat percent. I mean, it's ridiculous how good this stuff is. If that sounds like something you'd like to have at your house on the ready, in the freezer, Sagrera Farms is where you need to go. Give my guy, Sean Sagrera, a call at 719-1723. 719-1723. Prime Angus beef. It's Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. We'll come back with Joe Healy from D1 Baseball next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
You work hard every day to pursue a life you love. You put in the time, and it shows. You're forging ahead, chasing a dream, creating something better for the ones you love. You're building your own life, so why not build your own tractor? With John Deere tractors and attachments for almost any need, the Sunshine team can help you do just that. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief: our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, SEC baseball firing up tonight all across the Southeast. Everybody in action Thursday, Friday, Saturday in preparation for the conference tournament starting up next week in Hoover. Joe Healy will be all over it with his team at SEC Extra, part of the D1 baseball crew, and Joe's with us every single Thursday. We got a lot to talk about, Joe. How are you?
Doing well. Last weekend of the season is always a little bit of a weird one because it's such a quick turnaround to Hoover, and try to take in as much as I can this weekend, but it's hard not to look ahead, not just for the teams, but for guys like me.
Yeah, I don't even want to go back to last week, quite frankly. It was a huge win for LSU against Arkansas, but we've rehashed that, and now it's time to kind of look forward. And I talked about this earlier in the week. It appears to me now likely that the SEC gets 6 national seeds. That's never happened, and a lot of people push back and go, they're never going to do that. But it's hard for me to pry away from that. How do you feel about the conference getting 6 of the 8?
Yeah, I think it's totally on the table. I think that was shown last week when, on the D1 baseball podcast the guys do where they put the field of 64 together, and they ended up shoving 6 teams into the top 8. And I don't think they wanted to do it either, frankly, because there just is a little hesitation of if that'll actually come to pass. But when you get right down to it, it just kind of, they happen to be the 6 of the 8 best resumes, and that's really ultimately all that ends up mattering. And so I think it's totally on the table. I mean, of course that can change, but if you made me put a field together now, just Joe's, field, I think I'd probably have 6 as well.
Who should be a little bit more concerned? LSU, who's on the back end of the RPI on that, or some of the teams that have less conference wins?
I think I would say, you're always smart to follow the RPI, but I don't know, talking to JRT, the committee chair, he was on the D1 baseball podcast the other day, and he's kind of coming across like a guy who understands that the RPI is part of it, but doesn't come off as overly enamored with the RPI. Understanding that there's a lot of different metrics they're going to pull in, understanding there's, just a lot of information out there. And so I think this sounds like a year where, especially this year where it's weird, where the top 3 RPI teams, I think are actually lesser teams than Arkansas, LSU, Texas, that group of teams. I think I'd be more nervous if I were a little bit short on the conference win side of things.
Let's talk about those teams then. Auburn has played really good baseball really all year. They've been swept twice, but they've played a lot of really good baseball and certainly dominated South Carolina last week. They're headed to Oxford. What do they need to do?
Yeah, it feels like they're in a really advantageous situation where, I think the combination of the quality of their wins, yes, they've been swept twice, but that also means that, they've won a lot of series, and they've obviously have a lot of quality wins. So I think they're in a really good spot as far as that goes. I think certainly if they get a series win, they're in really good shape. I think they're on the board if they just get one. Oxford's been a tough place to play this year. It always is. That's not new, but this year it's been particularly a fortress for Ole Miss. So I'm never going to bet on a series win there, but if they get it, I would lock Auburn in as a top 8.
Really nice weekend for Vanderbilt in Knoxville. They've got one more series to go here. What do you think Vanderbilt's odds of getting a top 8 are, and what is their strength?
Their strength, really, I'll answer the second part first. Their strength is this is not new, but their pitching staff, but it's different. It's not rocker lighter that's just going to blow you away with fastball and all kinds of stuff, and they don't have the number 1 overall pick, that type of high-end talent, but they're leaning on guys that aren't necessarily big-time stuff, but have great metrics, guys that have fastball movement, guys that use their changeups differently. And then the depth. I mean, their bullpen might be the deepest bullpen in the SEC. And again, it gets overlooked other than Sawyer Hawks maybe because it doesn't have a guy coming out throwing 100 miles an hour necessarily. It's just built a little differently. So that is their strength. And then they're kind of in a similar situation here where, I think if they win the series, they're in really good shape. If they don't, it's a different story. And I kind of have a weird feeling about Kentucky in this spot. I could be wrong, but I really like the way Kentucky played last weekend against Oklahoma. And I think Kentucky probably feels like, hey, let's get off of 13 wins because we feel pretty good, but you just never know. So look, I think similar to Auburn, you win a series and we're probably not even having a conversation on Selection Monday about it.
Texas is leaking oil a little bit. At 20 wins, I don't think it's going to matter. I think they're in, even if they lose their last 3 series. Oklahoma just trying to maybe get one win to assure themselves that they're in. But these are 2 teams that have postseason aspirations. Oklahoma just because of Kyson Witherspoon, I think. How do you see that series going in Norman with the way Texas is playing?
Yeah, that's Texas is a weird one. And I compared it on my Weekend Waypoint show this morning to like the golfer that finishes 4 under and is in the clubhouse and but kind of, bogeyed a couple holes late. And so the guy coming in behind him, he ends up winning by, wins by 2 strokes instead of 4. They just built up such a strong resume so early on that I'm with you that even if they look awful this weekend, lose a 3rd straight series, I don't think there's anything keeping them out of a top 8. And look, if they take care of business, they win a series here, that's probably your number 1 overall seed if I had to guess. And Oklahoma, they're in the same spot as Kentucky, where it's like, hey, if you can get a win to feel good about not having to be nervous the committee's going to suddenly draw a hard line on 13-win SEC teams, that'll make you feel a little better. And you're right. Just the fact that they have Kyson, if they get the right regional draw, even as a 2, and they can hold Kyson for a winner's bracket game, like that's going to be one of your tougher 2s.
I saw a projection that had Oklahoma opposite LSU, where they would meet potentially in a super, and I had Jonathan Gray flashbacks from 2013 with Kyson Witherspoon sitting there waiting. So we'll see if that materializes. I listened to the D1 Baseball Preview podcast yesterday, and Runes put an incredible stat forward. I think it was him that said that Tennessee and Arkansas are playing this weekend. They've won combined 2 of their last 9 series, which seems almost impossible, being that I watched those 2 teams with my own eyes in Baton Rouge. I can't imagine that that's actually true, but it is. How do you see that one in Fayetteville?
Yeah, that's it kind of feels like a flip a coin. Man, I like on form. I like Arkansas better right now than I do Tennessee. I mean, how could you not? Because with Arkansas, it's like they've gotten outplayed a couple of weekends. But Tennessee's issues, I think, are more structural. Like, they're just not a good defensive team. They make a lot of kind of careless errors. They can't stop base running. They give away some free bases. So I just don't like that form. Now, I will say the bigger trend here, this season kind of reminds me of a big league season where, in the SEC at least, where, a bad team can sweep a good team, and then nobody necessarily thinks that, that means this bad team must be good now. You just move on with the season and say, it'll all wash out. Most of the time in college baseball, it's a small enough sample that we really read into series results. But this year just kind of feels like, with the exception of Mizzou and South Carolina, any of the other 14, you kind of flip a coin and you go with that because that's how close it is. And we just understand that next weekend we're just going to flip that coin again 7 times.
This one's wild because I recall our conversation when Florida started 1-11, and I said, you can't possibly believe in them just if they sweep Mizzou. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then all of a sudden we look up and Florida's 13-14, and they're hosting Alabama. Can they host a regional?
I think they can if they sweep it. I mean, their RPI is good enough. I looked this morning; it was like RPI 13 or something. If they sweep that thing, because also Alabama's kind of been a weird RPI darling this year. I think they're sitting at 8.
Yep.
They absolutely can, and we've seen that exact path before, where team wakes up from a coma just in the nick of time and gets hot and ends up hosting a regional. And it feels very similar to last year, where like I went to that Clemson Super Regional with Florida and Clemson, and as good as Clemson was all year, with Florida coming in there, I was like, I just have a hard time seeing many teams beating Florida right now. And lo and behold, they got it done. So this just feels very familiar from what we saw from Florida last year.
And Alabama's top 8 chances, if they were to win 2 out of 3 to get to 17 or sweep to get to 18?
Yeah, certainly if they get to 18, you feel really good. 17 is interesting because they're going to end up having a relatively borderline RPI. And I don't know that they're going to stack up well just with like the regional advisory committees, the eye test, all that stuff. I don't know that they're going to stack up very well if they're in a conversation with, let's say, Vanderbilt or, pick your team that we talked about that's sitting on 16 wins. I just don't think that they're going to end up stacking up as well in the eye test as those other teams.
Georgia's on 16 right now. They host Texas A&M. You want to take a guess as to how that series is going to play out?
Pass. I don't know, man. Like A&M, this is going to go down no matter how it ends. Like, this is going to go down as one of the weirdest seasons I've ever seen as someone who's covering college baseball. Like, in any given weekend, A&M might be one of the 5 best teams to field that weekend, or they might look like absolute garbage against the worst team in the SEC that didn't have a win. It's just like, okay, anything's on the table. I will say, to give you some actual information, like I'm kind of interested in how the committee treats Georgia, because their RPI has been kind of stuck at number 1 for a while. Now they've occasionally fallen to 2 when Texas was number 1, but for the most part, they've been number 1 in RPI all season. And so let's say they win 2 out of 3, they're sitting on 18. So that's their top 8 seed, whatever. Is the committee going to say, look, it's the number 1 RPI team, so they should be the number 1 overall or number 2 overall or something like that? Or will they kind of look at, hey, this team is flawed and they're a very good team, but they're no better than these other 5 SEC teams, and they make them the number 6 or 7 overall seed? That's going to be fascinating to me, just as an RPI like litmus test, if you will.
Does A&M need to get 3, or is 2 enough to go to Hoover with a real shot?
I think because of the way the SEC is stacked, where we're once again just probably going to have a bunch of teams sitting at 13 or maybe 14, it feels like a pecking order problem. where it's like if they have 12 and let's say they go 1-1 in Hoover or whatever, like is the committee going to look at that and say, you know, are they really deserving a 14th team in the field if this team is 12-18 and had a relatively meaningless win in Hoover? Like, I would be nervous if I was A&M. They get to 13, we're probably not even worried about it. But here's the other thing is, like, they do have an RPI problem now. Like, they need to improve in that. And if you're sitting at, certainly if you're sitting at 12, but even at 13, if it's 13 and your RPI is in the mid to high 40s, that might be enough reason for the committee to say, look, I get that you have some high-end series wins, but you didn't do near enough with the opportunities you had. And honestly, I think that would be fair.
Been swept 4 times. That's hard to overlook at this point.
Yeah.
Last one is LSU and South Carolina. Is there a cause for concern you can conjure up for LSU this weekend?
Not really, unless we're looking at like a Mizzou A&M last weekend kind of thing. Although, you know, even that, because it's on the road, not at home. So no, but I do think there might be a little bit of a weird air about the stadium in Founders Park, because ultimately the future of Paul Mainieri has overshadowed anything that's going to happen on the field this weekend. Just to kind of like, will he step away? Will he be around for a second year? You know, he keeps giving interviews and talking to the media about, oh, I was just kind of taken aback by how good the SEC is. I forgot how hard it is to win games. It doesn't sound like a coach that's really kind of steadying himself and steeling himself for year 2. So I do think there could be just a strange atmosphere in the stadium this weekend that could make for some wacky results. But no, like barring something unforeseen, like I think LSU is fine. Just if you play your B or C game, you'll probably be okay.
That's kind of what the feeling has been. Enjoy the baseball, Joe, and we'll talk to you from Hoover next week.
All right, Hunt, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball SEC Extra Team. Check out Highway to Hoover podcast. Appointment listing for me, and this time of year probably should be for you as well. It's there's only one SEC series that I'm not super fascinated by, and I guess I can come up with a reason to be. It's Mississippi State, Missouri. It's the one we didn't touch on there. Mississippi State probably needs to win 2 games against Missouri to get in the NCAA tournament. So there's literally something on the table in every single matchup, which is incredible at this time of year. So thanks to Joe for giving us a little bit of time. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Sunshine, we know what you see when you look at your land. Where others may see dirt, you see the foundation you've built your life on. It's hallowed ground. It's past, present, and future. We're proud to provide quality John Deere equipment to help you maintain the land you love. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
You gotta believe in a dream. Believe. You gotta believe in
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment. Dave's back on. Coors Light. Choose chill.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium beef, ribeyes, fillets, flanks, ground beef, whole cows and sides. Put them in your freezer, courtesy of the folks at Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. Some of the best beef in the world. Been telling you about it for a few weeks now. Check them out at Sagrera Farms. I wrote a story earlier today for LouisianaSports.net that all stemmed from the interview that Paul Mainieri did with Matt yesterday on After Further Review. And I won't care about this talking point tomorrow or Monday at all, so we won't do it. But the former coach of this program is leading another program, and LSU's going to play him tonight. And I think that's newsworthy. I think that's noteworthy. And Paul Mainieri, if you ask 10 LSU fans about Paul Mainieri's tenure here, I think you'll get 6 or 7 very different answers. I think there are some that would suggest he did a great job. I think there are some that would suggest they never really liked him. I think there are some that would suggest that he took his foot off the gas. I think there are some that suggest he didn't win enough in the postseason or choked against some of the teams that were lesser than LSU, the Coastals and the Houstons and the Stony Brooks. And I think there are some that would say it was awesome, and then at the end it just kind of tailed off. I think the run that he went on from 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 6 years in a row, Paul Mainieri had LSU as a national seed. That is not easy to do. It is not. Look at what the last 4 national champs have done in this sport. Mississippi State fell off a cliff. Ole Miss fell off a cliff. LSU almost drowned and then came back to life and lost in a regional. And then this year, Tennessee can't find itself. They've lost 5 out of 6 weekends. And he put over 56 games plus the SEC tournament, a phenomenal product on the field every single year for 6 years. And that's after he went to Omaha in 08 and won a national championship in 09. I think a lot of people around here are spoiled, and I'm glad they're spoiled because it means that we care a lot and we understand the game, and it's just a big deal to talk about college baseball this time of year in this town. And so to expect to win more than one national championship from 2007 through 2021 is a little bit irrational, but part of the reason that makes LSU baseball great. But I will always think of Paul Mainieri as a guy who took over a program that had cratered. Those last couple of smoke teams were awful. And he ignited the flame. And yeah, he got Lewis Coleman from a smoke team. And yeah, Blake Dean and Sean Ochenko and some of those guys were recruited by smoke. But he got it to a point. They had one slight dip in 2011. And then they were great for the better than half a decade. And I wish things would have gone differently in the UCLA game in 2013. I was there for that. I wish it would have gone differently in the championship series in 2017. And yes, towards the end, those teams weren't quite as talented as you needed to be. But I think Paul Mainieri should be remembered around here incredibly fondly. His era was incredibly successful, and I'm grateful for everything that he did in Baton Rouge. I don't know how it's going to work out in South Carolina. I don't think that I have very high hopes for it. Hopefully the next 3 days don't go very well. But when he comes back to Baton Rouge, which he is, he said that on Matt's show yesterday, he should be celebrated for the rest of his days. I thought he did a great job here, and I appreciate that. Now, let's lace him up and go beat him for 3 days. That's it for hour number 1. See you after SportsCenter.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Jonathan Carbo and his team, phenomenal folks to work with on the insurance side of things. I've had some conversations with Jonathan and his team. I won't elaborate too much on them because it's insurance talk, and you really don't want to hear that. But you do understand that it's important at times. And they are experts, technically, in the insurance game. They are not folks that are going to cold call you up, say, hey, I can cut 20% off. Give me a chance here. That's not how they do business because that's not realistic in this marketplace. What is realistic is making sure that your policy reads properly so that when you've got a loss, whether it is a hurricane, whether it's a car accident, a workers' comp situation, a cyber attack, an employment practice liability issue, when that arises, instead of it being crippling to your business, the insurance policy kicks in and mitigates that loss. That's the most important part of insurance, and they can help you out with that. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Sunshine, we know what you see when you look at your land. Where others may see dirt, you see the foundation you've built your life on. It's hallowed ground. It's past, present, and future. We're proud to provide quality John Deere equipment to help you maintain the land you love. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
At Bayou Automotive, we believe in a sales process that puts you first. We want you to experience an easy purchase with clear pricing and great service. Let Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram be your trusted partners in finding your perfect vehicle. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi, live on ESPN. First round of the PGA Championship. Ryan Gerard tops the leaderboard at golf's second major of the year. The top 3 ranked golfers in the world. Scotty Scheffler is 4 back. Xander Schauffele is 6 back. Masters champ Rory McIlroy is 9 off the lead. 2 nights after a pivotal Game 5 victory, Thunder seeking to provide the knockout punch to the Nuggets in Game 6 of the NBA's Western Conference semis. As Nikola Jokic has been carrying the load, depth certainly a concern in the series for Denver, especially the last 2 games. That is not the case for OKC, notes ESPN NBA analyst and NBA champion Kendrick Perkins.
That's what's winning them these games, especially the last 2. You look at the numbers of what they've done to Denver in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's been eye-popping. And you heard Shea talk about it. Like, basically, like, I wouldn't be able to close the game if it wasn't for the others on my team.
Game 6, 8 Eastern ESPN Radio, 8:30 Eastern ABC. Series winner takes on the T-Wolves in the West Finals. NFL owners to vote on a resolution next week that would allow players to participate in flag football during the 2028 Olympics.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming up Friday, we'll react to the first round of the PGA Championship and get you ready for a huge Game 6 at the Garden. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
All right. For Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. Chris Blair from Columbia, South Carolina in 15 minutes. Let's talk about this South Carolina team, shall we? This is the segment where I do the segment and then everyone either tweets at me or goes in the Bayou Ford chat and tells me that I'm jinxing LSU. I'm not jinxing LSU. I'm giving you statistical fact. This is hard data. It is not to be interpreted with any sort of jinx, or it just is. South Carolina pitching staff this year, Southeastern Conference. 16 teams in the league, right? 15th in ERA, 6.28. 15th in hits. 15th in earned runs. 15th in home runs allowed. 15th in walks. 14th in hit by pitches. They're the worst, second worst, or third worst in all of those categories. ERA, earned runs allowed, hits allowed, home runs allowed, walks, hit by pitches. They're 12th in strikeouts, which is better than those numbers. Still not very good. You heard Paul Maneri on yesterday with Matt Moscona. He basically said to Matt, he's like, yeah, we just don't really have anybody that throws hard. There's just no stuff on that team. Eli Jersenbeck was supposed to be kind of their Friday night guy, and he's got a fastball up to 98, 96 usually, and he got hurt before the season started, and they hadn't seen him all year. They just don't have much stuff. Well, what about the offense? Well, I'll tell you about the offense, and we'll do the same exercise as it relates to the SEC. Runs per game, 5.8. That's dead last. That's worse than Missouri. Missouri passed them last week. On-base percentage and slugging. These are the two metrics that we look at the most in the modern day of baseball, college, professional, whatever. Can you get on base? Can you slug? They're 15th in the SEC in both, which obviously means they're 15th in the SEC in OPS. They're 13th in home runs, and that includes 10 from Ethan Petrie, who's not going to play this weekend. They're 13th in walks. They're 12th in batting average, and they're 12th in steals. So they don't get a lot of hits, don't hit a lot of home runs, don't steal a lot of bases. The only statistic I could find that they're in the top half of the SEC in is sacrifice bunts. That's the best I could find. It is not a good baseball team by any metric I can find. And you can interpret that as jinx, but it's pretty easy to draw that conclusion I just did. So for LSU, like, what are the keys to the weekend? Okay, well, I can give you keys to the weekend. It starts with taking care of yourself. Meaning, don't walk people. You control where the baseball goes. Throw it over the plate. don't hit people. Don't give them free base runners. When they hit you a ground ball, double play ball, make the play. If you give South Carolina 27 outs a day, I'll give you one error. They made one error, LSU did against Arkansas last week. That's a good defensive weekend. LSU is fielding 979 as a team. That's a solid fielding percentage. You're looking for about 980, and they're 979, so you're right there. But if you make the plays and don't give them base runners, and you tell South Carolina, you're going to have to earn everything you get offensively, and whatever you earn, we'll get to earn what we do against your team and your staff, which is the worst in the league, and we'll see who comes out on top. And in that instance, LSU is going to come out on top 8 or 9 out of 10 times, and that is exactly what you're looking for. I don't believe LSU has to go on the road this weekend and sweep South Carolina right out of Founders Park. So you don't have to show up with that kind of pressure on you. Basically, last weekend, Texas A&M had to sweep Missouri to feel really good about going to Athens and getting into the NCAA tournament. They needed to sweep. They knew that the first second the ball was put in play on Friday night. And they actually came out and played pretty well in the beginning of that Friday game, and then it all just went to crap. But that's a lot of weight to play under for 3 days. I don't think LSU has that weight on them. And they don't even have the weight of Cade Anderson being out there on Thursday night and then him pitching and getting beat. You're going, oh, my God, they just beat our ace, and now we got to win the next 2 games? You don't even have that weight because he's not pitching until tomorrow. There's just not a lot of pressure on LSU tonight that should induce some sort of panic play. It's not a hostile environment. Nobody's going to be there. You don't have to win all 3 games. You're not burning your ace. Like, there's so much psychologically that is in LSU's favor here that they should be able to play free and play well. And if they do that, they're going to win 2 out of 3. Now, in tonight's game, because we're going to talk about tomorrow's game tomorrow and then Saturday's game tomorrow. Tonight's game, you're going to see Ashton Crowther, who is a left-hander, Miami transfer, who has 1 SEC start. And he's throwing the ball right now as well as anybody on the South Carolina staff. In the last 2 weekends, he started against Florida, came out of the bullpen against Auburn. He's worked 7 total innings and allowed 1 earned run on 8 hits. That's pretty quality work. I watched the outing against Florida, and here are my takeaways from Ashton Crowther. He's a thin left-hander, not a great athlete. He throws a 91-mile-an-hour fastball and a pretty good changeup. And you know how we talk about fastball ride, like the Ty Floyd has that rising fastball. Anderson's does that. Liam Doyle's is very much like that. Gage Wood from Arkansas last week. I mean, that thing that just spins at such a high rate and stays on plane. Everything that Ashton Crowther throws sinks. It's 91 and it's sinking. It's a changeup and it's sinking. The breaking ball goes down. The key for LSU, because Crowther is not going to go a really long way. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is probably going to throw 70 pitches if things are going well. His high this year is 66. The key for LSU is to not beat that thing into the ground 3 times in a row really quick in 2 straight innings and let him roll 6 straight ground ball outs in a total of 19 pitches, and then all of a sudden he's in a groove and you hadn't scored for 2 innings. Like, you need to find a way to get the ball elevated because he'll if you can get under that fastball and hit it a long way, good things will happen, doubles, home runs. And realize that, you know, once he comes out of the game, there's just not a lot there beyond him for South Carolina. I'm not trying to be dismissive of the entire baseball program over there, but there's nothing. I mean, you're well aware of what this staff has allowed over the last 5 SEC games. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen a team that's been outscored 76-18 over 5 league games. I mean, that's what South Carolina has done. That's because of the lack of dudes. They're 1-9 in their last 10 league games. So just play your game, understand the scouting report on this pitcher, and there shouldn't be a lot of issues. Ethan Petrie is the one guy that a lot of people that follow SEC baseball but haven't paid attention much to South Carolina this year know. 2 years ago, he was an All-American. 2 years ago, he hit 23 home runs. He's only 4 home runs short of Jared Jones for a career, and Jones is about to become the third all-time in home runs at LSU. So Petrie's had a phenomenal career at South Carolina. He's not going to play this weekend. Maneri told Matt yesterday he's not going to play. He's been out with this shoulder issue for 2 weeks. He tried to play in the game on Tuesday night. He was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He took a swing in the 8th inning. It didn't look very good. He sat out the rest of the game. He was sore on Wednesday. He's not going to play. Now, would it stun me if Ethan Petrie grabbed a bat on Saturday in a close game in his final game at Founders Park and tried to give one swing Kirk Gibson style? It would not, but it would stun me if he started all 3 games based on what Paul Maneri said yesterday. And what I know about Paul Maneri is the way he handles injuries. You know everything. Like, there is nothing that is being hidden from an injury perspective with Paul Maneri. He's not playing coy. He literally tells you the surgery that the guy had and when he had it and what time of day he had it. Like, that's how he handles injuries. And so Petrie, I don't expect to play. He may grab a bat to pinch hit at some point, but they just don't have much punch there. So LSU is in an advantageous spot every way I can paint it this weekend. You're in an advantageous spot from how you set your pitching rotation, the talent on both teams, where you are in the standings, what the crowd's going to be like, what the other team has done the last 2 weeks. I don't have another way to break this series down. You're getting everything I got, and that's what I got. I got a team that's really good that I've heard multiple people over the last 8 days called the best team in college baseball. Mark Etheridge said that. Aaron Fitz said that. Mike Rooney said that. We had a guy from Baseball America yesterday on that said that. Like, people think that is potentially the best team in the nation, and I got a team that's running out the rope on the worst season in program history. Would it totally flatline me if South Carolina won 2 out of 3 this weekend? No. It would if they swept LSU. But it's baseball. But I feel pretty good about LSU all 3 times they take the field. And you've got one in your back pocket to play with. So just go out there, play loose, play free, play well, take care of business, and come on back with the national seed sewn up so you can do whatever you want in Hoover next week. That's the goal. We'll talk a little bit more about it towards the end of the show here. Our Thursday shows are brought to you by Sagrera Farms. When we come back, we'll chat with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. He is in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll get his thoughts on this series next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. They value your experience at Genesis. So when you walk on the lot, they understand the stereotypes that car dealerships deal with because they're rooted in some truth. Sometimes when you show up on a lot, you're pressured, and you're upsold, and you're lied to, and you're taken advantage of. It's never going to happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. You're going to be treated like a guest. All of your needs and your questions will be answered, and they'll get you in the right Genesis for you. You've probably never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. Driving around Baton Rouge right now in your car and you're thinking about getting a new one, you've probably never driven a Genesis. Get behind the wheel. See the difference. Feel that experience. Once you buy that car, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Once you buy that car, 3 years complimentary maintenance. 3 years complimentary valet maintenance. They come to you to get that vehicle. They can do that on the buying side too. If you'd like to test drive from your home or office, they can make that happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Go visit the dealership airline at PQ. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Baton Rouge's home for real rock. It's Eagle 98.1. Foo Fighters. Led Zeppelin. AC/DC. Pearl Jam. And the flagship home for LSU sports. Take us anywhere with the Eagle 98.1 app. Eagle 98.1 is the rock station.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
At Sunshine, we know what you see when you look at your land. Where others may see dirt, you see the foundation you've built your life on. It's hallowed ground. It's past, present, and future. We're proud to provide quality John Deere equipment to help you maintain the land you love. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms. Premium beef, special spot just north of Baton Rouge. I'm going to give you Sean's cell phone number here shortly if you'd like half a cow or a whole cow in that freezer for the summer months. Trust me, you're going to want them. We're talking about a 3-year process. These cattle are raised on grass, finished on grain. It is prime Angus beef, and it can be in your freezer pretty quickly here if you can get up to Ethel and get it brought home. His Sean's cell, 719-1723, 719-1723. This beef is in the top 1% nationwide, and it's right here just outside Baton Rouge. It's Sagrera Farms. Give Sean a call, 719-1723. Sagrera Farms, bringing you our Thursday shows each and every week here on the Hunt Palmer Show. So we're going to talk a little bit in the next segment about some football transfer portal stuff because I've been intrigued by the stories that I've heard on After Further Review in the last week, and written some stories about it on LouisianaSports.net, and I think it's worth mentioning here as we move forward here on this Thursday. And I'm really fired up for tomorrow's show. We'll talk to Koki Riley coming up from Columbia, South Carolina, and we'll get your reaction to game number 1 between LSU and South Carolina, as well as the rest of the SEC. And then we'll certainly get to game 2 from across the SEC and LSU's game with South Carolina. But I wanted to go to Columbia here and talk with Chris Blair. He's going to be on the call. Keep in mind, Chris was here for the end of the Paul Maneri era, and now has been for the entirety of the Jay Johnson era. And I just kind of want to see what his emotions are as far as seeing Paul again in different colors. Matt was talking about it with Paul yesterday, just kind of seeing Paul in that garnet and black as opposed to being in purple and gold. And Paul told him yesterday, he was like, hey, like I have not been looking forward to this. It's going to be weird for me. It's a school that means so much to me. And obviously it's something you got to do. He's got to do his job, but he's going to come back to Baton Rouge when he's done. And it's just going to be an awkward weekend for him after, the most important part of his career, I would say, was here in Baton Rouge. Having a little trouble linking up with Chris Blair, so let me transition quickly to the football side that I wanted to talk about in the next segment. Over the last 7 days, Matt has had A.J. Halsey and Bernard Gooden on his show, and both guys have told a very similar story. A.J. Halsey went to a high school that is very well known in Texas. Devon Achane played with him in high school. You don't think there were some scouts and some college football coaches on hand at practice and at some games to watch Devon Achane play? He played in 2 state championship games in Texas. And he thought, based on his production, that would be a guy that college coaches would absolutely want on their team. And he kept waiting for the big offer, and he told the story to Matt about how he was checking his phone after games. He would wake up and try to see if anybody had called, and nobody did. And finally, New Mexico kept blowing him up. He's like, all right, I'll go play for New Mexico. And that's what he did, and he balled out. And after a couple years at New Mexico, boom, goes over to Houston. That's a step up. Balls out at Houston. And then finally, for AJ, Miami and LSU and Ole Miss are on line 1. And that dream that he had since he was 16, 17 years old came to fruition. It's just now that he's 21, 22. And now he's got an opportunity to go play in the SEC and shine bright and potentially find his way into the professional ranks. And you got Bernard Gooden, who told a similar story. Grew up in Alabama. No real Power 5 offers. The only Power 5 team that picked the phone and called him was Wake Forest. So he went to Wake Forest. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And he didn't play a lot. And he got homesick. So he left. And he went to South Florida. And didn't really play his first year at South Florida. So you're thinking, maybe this dream's dead. I've been thinking I could be a P5 player. Only one school offers. I go there. They don't play me. I come to South Florida. I'm not playing. And then, in his 4th year, he blossoms and becomes a really productive player. 10 tackles for loss this past year for South Florida. And he was pretty content to stay at South Florida, which is why the December transfer portal window came and went, and he didn't go anywhere. He just stayed at South Florida. And his mom said, this is your last chance. Just take a look. So he took a look around. And on the phone was LSU. And when that call came and he got to meet with Kyle Williams, felt like they were similar in the fact that they were 6'1" guys that weren't 6'5" and 360, but wanted to be great. And he felt like he could be a similar type player that Kyle Williams was. Now, that's an ambitious deal to play 13 years in the NFL and make 6 Pro Bowls. But in terms of their frame, it's not all that different. And he gets now a chance to go to LSU and play in the SEC and do all those things that I talked about with A.J. Halsey. And every time you want to sit there and say, man, the transfer portal is killing college athletics. It's terrible what we're teaching these kids. I want to pause because I've been one of those that said, man, this makes life tough on college coaches. When your entire team can pick up and leave with no consequence, that's a hard thing for college coaches. I use the example a lot of Will Davis, the guy I talked to a couple of years ago. He was an assistant at LSU, and he's been the head coach at Lamar, done a phenomenal job at Lamar. They got another great team this year. But he lost his Friday night starter 3 years in a row to the Big 12. That is difficult to continue to put a good product on the field when the guys that you recruit, develop, and perform up and go really quickly with no punishment. But in the same breath, I personally catch myself and I go, a system that allows Paul Skeens to do what he's done is pretty special. And I don't know if he would have done it at Air Force. Steven Strasburg did it at San Diego State, so I'm not saying that small school players can't do great things, but certainly LSU gave him more resources and a bigger platform to do what he did. Who am I to say that what Jaden Daniels did was bad for the sport? Who am I to tell you that if A.J. Halsey, who nobody would call in Houston as a high school player except New Mexico, through merit earns a spot at Houston, and then through merit earns a spot at LSU, and then potentially through merit could be an NFL player, like, that's a broken system? Because a guy balls out, performs, and gets an opportunity to move, quote-unquote, up? Yes, it's difficult on college coaches. And yes, I find it to be sometimes hard to wrap my head around. But when players are given an opportunity and shine, just like us, and if we're going to call this professional sports, like, you do something great professionally, another opportunity might arise. And that's what you're seeing with some of these guys. And it just struck me because we can talk about this in like an abstract way where you're just talking big picture and like what is possible and in hypotheticals. But to hear it straight out of A.J. Halsey's mouth on AFR, straight out of Bernard Gooden's mouth on AFR, like, this is my experience. This is what I hoped and dreamed for. It didn't happen immediately, so I went to work, lifted weights, practiced, performed, and all of a sudden got put in a position where now this is what I can do. And I can go to other guys who have done this, not even at LSU, like Dalton Knecht at Tennessee, who comes from out in the Midwest, small school U, nobody's ever heard of him, puts his name in the transfer portal, boom, Tennessee, SEC Player of the Year, first-round pick, Lakers. That's a broken system? I don't know that I would call it a broken system. I would call it a situation where guys are doing awesome things. Now, I was up front talking about the Nico Iamaleava stuff with the transfer portal, and like, I don't know if that's the design of it, like to just go strong arm a booster base and a bunch more money when it doesn't appear that that's coming from anywhere. I didn't love that. And I don't feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. I just feel like there can be tweaks made to the system. I feel like we're not in a perfect utopian place in collegiate athletics. But I'm not going to say that a young person who has done everything they can and is being given opportunity to compete at higher levels is just some disaster for collegiate athletics. And if you're here at LSU and you've seen what Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels and Paul Skeens and Tommy White and Thatcher Hurd have done, and you want to immediately blow the whole thing up, like, that's a bit much for me. I know there are some out there, and I didn't say you're dead wrong. I just said it's a bit much for me. I feel like that it's a good thing for some young people to be able to chase their dreams and to perform and to be rewarded on a merit-based system for that play. And A.J. Halsey and Bernard Gooden really crystallized that to me with what they've done over the last 5 years. So we'll see if those guys are huge pieces to LSU's defense in 2025 or not, but they certainly have an opportunity to be, and that may not have been the case 10, 15 years ago. Those are my thoughts on if you're looking for LSU football content. You can certainly find it Hunt on LSU, wherever you find your sound, wherever if you're looking on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel. We certainly do appreciate that. All right, we'll come back. We got 30 minutes left to go. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
It's not just a game, it's a religion. You've got your team colors, team swag, and now your very own website, LouisianaSports.net. Everything LSU, Saints, and Pelicans. Sports on demand. In-depth coverage by sports writing pros with continuously updated news. And with the LouisianaSports.net newsletter, you get pinged directly with top trending stories. Best of all, now and always, no paywall. It's free. LouisianaSports.net, powered by 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Your home for Louisiana sports.
Men, age is just a number. Don't let it dictate how you feel. Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness has anti-aging services that can help you look and feel your best. Visit yourgoodwood.com and discover a renewed sense of vitality.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
These are the luckiest ice cubes in the world. They could have been a thankless bed for an all-you-can-eat salad bar. But instead, they've been called upon to cradle and cool a crisp, refreshing Dos Equis. Looks like the lucky just got luckier. Dos Equis.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
LSU and South Carolina from Columbia coming up in 3.5 hours. 6 o'clock Central Time, first pitch. If you want to listen to it, you can on Eagle 98.1, 5:30 for the pregame. It'll be Bill Franquez and Chris Blair on the call. Kind of quietly. I wouldn't suggest it's been a 5-alarm fire, but kind of quietly, Derek Curiel is struggling a little bit. I want to be clear because I've now covered Jay Johnson long enough. He bristles at some of these when like the first sign of an issue, he says, well, they're struggling, and he doesn't generally like that. You're talking about a kid who's hitting 352 in his first SEC season. So to say he's like, really hitting the skids would be a tremendous overstatement. But he is 4 for his last 25 with 9 strikeouts. And that's just not a stretch that we've seen from him at any point this year. That's 160 over the course of 2 series. So you hear the term freshman wall all the time, talking about the most at-bats a player's had at any point in their early life, and it can be difficult because you're dealing with a massive amount of talent every time you get out on the field. And Curiel, he got on base the first 43 games of the season, and that came to an end against Tennessee. Then he had 2 games where he didn't get on base against Texas A&M and 2 games where he didn't get on base against Arkansas. And he just hasn't been as good the last 2 weeks as he was I guess if we're going to do math there, that's 11 weeks prior to that. But I don't have a lot of concerns. And I think this is a weekend that he can really bounce back. And I think this is a weekend that LSU can really get the bats rolling. I sincerely hope that they do. We saw what Auburn did to this pitching staff last week, what Florida did, scoring 22 runs in one of their games. This is a pick-me-up. And I'll tell you one thing that I very, very much expect to see. And I want to get this number right, so I will pull it up here as I'm talking through it. But Jared Jones has not hit a bunch of home runs recently. And I'm telling you he's going to hit 2 this weekend because he strikes out at times against some really, really tough arms. We've seen that. His strikeout numbers are very high. But when you get into the midweek and you see some of these high 80s, low 90s arms, he was crushing the ball in the midweek. And Jones has not homered since the walk-off that he hit in the first game against Texas A&M. But if you go back in the midweek games, he did homer against Southeastern. He did homer against McNeese. He did homer against Louisiana Tech. He did homer against ULL. He was hitting a lot of these lower level arms. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to suggest that South Carolina's pitching staff is closer to par with Southeastern Louisiana Tech than it is to Arkansas. I'm sorry. I know that you're talking SEC versus WAC and Sun Belt and all that kind of stuff, but it just is what it is. Paul Maneri said it on the show yesterday with Matt. He's yeah, we just don't really have anybody that throws all that hard. And you look at their team ERA, it's astronomical. You look at what they've done over the last 5 games. I bet if I put Southeastern out there against Auburn and Florida over those 5 games, they wouldn't give up more than 72 runs. So this is going to be right in Jared Jones' wheelhouse, especially starting a couple of left-handers. I expect him to hit a couple home runs this weekend. I think Derek Curiel will respond, and hopefully everybody kind of gets some good vibes. I'm going to be steadfast in this, and I'm going to tell you this next week as well. How you play in the SEC tournament doesn't really carry over to the regional. LSU was sizzling last year in the SEC tournament. Sizzling. And they went to Chapel Hill, and they needed a walk-off home run against Wofford on the first game. Got it. And I can go back to 2023, the year before that, where LSU played very poorly in the SEC tournament and then came out in the regional and just ambushed those teams. Maneri had some teams that were great in the SEC tournament. 2010 comes to mind that they went out to Irvine, needed a walk-off, and then got put in a locker by UCLA. We've seen teams like 2013 won the SEC tournament, and they went out and won the regional and the super, and that was great. But, Ole Miss in their national championship year was 1-out in the Hoover. Mississippi State in their national championship year was 0-2 in Q in Hoover. So I'd rather be swinging the bat well in the last weekend in the SEC tournament than not. It's a preference. It's not a mandate on what's going to happen when you get to regional time. But what is a mandate is that if you get a top 8 national seed, you are playing at home in the regional and super regional, and that's really the mission here. And I fully expect LSU to go out there and do it. I think you've gone through this meat grinder, and I keep telling myself this, and Jay Johnson has alluded to it in his press conferences as well, but you don't see anybody in your regional as good as Tennessee. You don't see anybody in your regional as good as Arkansas. You don't see anybody in your regional as good as some of the teams that LSU's played. Texas, name your SEC team. And at times, LSU's offense has looked very pedestrian. We've talked about it. Didn't hit when they went to Auburn. Didn't hit when they went to College Station at the end. And we've seen some of that. There's not really an excuse this weekend for that. You don't hit Zach Root. You don't hit Liam Doyle. You don't hit Kyson Witherspoon. You don't hit Jared Spencer as well. You don't hit Sam Dutton, who's thrown it great for Auburn. So that happens. if you've got a couple games this weekend where you don't hit, I can't come to your defense on Monday. Not that that's my job, but like I can't. This is, I think I've said enough on this series. Like, it is what it is. You've got to go out there and handle your business, and I fully expect that LSU will do that. I have some good vibes from final weekends of the year with LSU under Jay Johnson. If you'll remember in 2022, his first year, they went up to Vanderbilt and just put it on Vanderbilt for 3 days. Just crushed them for 3 days, to the point where we thought maybe LSU could host a regional. Ended up they went to Hattiesburg, and they were close to hosting a regional, but put it on Vandy. Final series of the year for the 23 team. They went to Athens, got a big series win. Thatcher Hurd had a nice relief outing at the end of that, so that was great. And then last year, a lot of people may not remember this. You remember that they were 3-12. You remember the regional. You remember the SC tournament making a run. You may not remember the last weekend of the year last year. It was Ole Miss, and both teams came in needing to get at least 2 games, if not sweep, to get in the NCAA tournament. And LSU swept Ole Miss right out of the box. They couldn't get Tommy White out for 3 days. He was hitting home runs, doubles all over the place. And LSU swept Ole Miss, and that got them to 13 wins. And they really didn't need much when they got to Hoover. Now, they went nuts in Hoover and ended up as a 2 seed. But Jay Johnson's had his teams play pretty well the last weekend of the year, 3 straight years. This will be the 4th. There's no correlation between that. I don't think you can point to those 3 results and immediately direct yourself to say that they're going to get better and play great this weekend. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to say they've done a good job to this point. So LSU and South Carolina tonight, I've got really good feelings about it. I told you early in terms of pitching plans, I think that it's reasonable to expect 1 of 3 guys, Connor Ware, Jaden Newt, Zach Cowan. I would be pretty surprised if Cowan went out there at this point. I think that you could definitely think that Connor Ware could be a real option there, and then probably piecing it together. A lot of different guys pitching, not trying to burn anybody for the weekend, and then you hand the ball to Cade Anderson tomorrow and tell him to go as long as he can go. So we'll see. We'll certainly talk about it on tomorrow's show when we've got one in the rearview mirror. Just a wild weekend of SEC baseball. I'll tell you what I'd like to happen. I would really like LSU to run rule South Carolina through 7 in that game quickly. I can write my story for LouisianaSports.net and then flip right over to Tennessee, Arkansas, who don't start until like almost 2 hours after LSU. So that's what I'm hoping to see. Remains to be seen, but we can hope, can't we? Segura Farms brings you our Thursday shows each and every week. We'll step aside, come back, and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
ED, low T, or simply seeking to optimize your health and performance? Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness offers a range of discreet services to address your specific needs. We empower men to reclaim their health and confidence. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At Sunshine, we know what you see when you look at your land. Where others may see dirt, you see the foundation you've built your life on. It's hallowed ground. It's past, present, and future. We're proud to provide quality John Deere equipment to help you maintain the land you love. Check out our current promotions And learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Family owned and community driven.
Service Chevrolet Cadillac, a legacy you can trust since 1972. Service Chevrolet Cadillac, our family serving your family.
For over 50 years.
At Luba Workers' Comp, our journey began over 30 years ago with a simple belief. Our clients come first.
At Luba, our business has always been focused on people, not policies.
Through every success and challenge, we've continued to grow because we've stayed true to our values, committed to providing you with genuine dependability.
Because your well-being is more than a priority. It's our purpose.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge Spring Cha-Ching, powered by Citizens Bank and Trust, is back. Register today at 1045ESPN.com for your chance to win $5,000 in cash. It's the Spring Cha-Ching with Citizens Bank and Trust and 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Beef. I know if you're a steak eater out there, you've had a great steak before, you've had a not great steak. And that's kind of the risk you run when you head out and just grab one. What if I could guarantee you a great steak every single time? I can do that if you check out Sagrera Farms. I'm going to give you Sean Sagrera's cell phone number here in a second, but let me tell you this story with the folks at Sagrera Farms. They're not guessing. They know. We're talking about intramuscular fat scores with the beef that they've got on site right now that are 12, 14, 17. You're going, what's 12, 14, 17? Well, Select is under 4%. Choice is 60% of the beef you see out there. That's 4 to 7%. 8, 9% and higher is prime. We're talking 12, 14, 17. You can have that, some of the greatest beef in the world, in your freezer all summer long if you contact the folks at Sagrera Farm. Every single cow is a 3-year journey. And at the end, they're raised on grass, finished on grain, dry aged, talking 45 days. They cut them, they wrap them. You take a look at the product you're taking home, you bring it back. No deposit, no nothing. It's an incredible process. And if you're sick of just running down the street and grabbing a mediocre steak, then go to Sagrera Farms and get the best. That's what you need to do. Contact my guy, Sean Sagrera, 719-1723, 719-1723 at Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. All right, LSU in South Carolina tonight, plus a bevy of action across the Southeastern Conference. If you're an LSU fan, kind of give you a quick guide to what we're looking for this evening. Georgia has 16 league wins. If you want Texas A&M to go take a couple from them, would be fine by me. I don't think that gets A&M into the field, and it may knock Georgia down a peg or so. They're number 1 in the RPI, but you're pulling against Georgia. Bama and Florida, I'd rather Florida win. I think they're in the field anyway, and they're not going to get a top 8. Bama could steal a top 8 if they go down there and get a sweep or win 2 out of 3, so I'm pulling against Alabama. Vanderbilt is a team that's ahead of LSU. I'll be pulling for Kentucky to beat them. If Ole Miss could take care of Auburn, that would be awesome. Auburn's sitting on 16 league wins. They've got a great resume outside of that, but if Ole Miss could take care of Auburn, that would be really good. And then Tennessee and Arkansas, I think the only way Tennessee gets a top 8 is if they go to Arkansas and sweep to get to 18 wins. The RPI would really need to take a few pegs up, and their strength of schedule is not great. So that's just going to be for entertainment purposes. I don't think either is a huge threat to LSU. At this point, Arkansas is probably going to get one anyway. Tennessee, I don't think, is a huge threat to LSU, so that one's not as big a deal. It's just going to be great for entertainment value, I think. So lots of action, and I'll promise I'll get you caught up on how all of it impacts LSU tomorrow. We'll have updated RPIs, and we'll see just where LSU stands. But big one tonight for LSU. They'll start a bullpen arm and see what they do from there. Kate Anderson and Anthony Ianson on Friday and Saturday. All right, Beck, you got any take it or leave it's over there? Or are we watching golf?
Yeah, we're watching golf.
No take it or leave it's.
Nope.
Tell me something good about the golf.
The Ryder Cup captains are both playing really well.
Luke Donald today hit 9 greens and didn't make a bogey.
That's
For
correct.
all you recreational golfers out there, like me, like Beck, how many times you getting up and down out of 9?
Maybe 2 or 3.
If you sink a 15-footer?
Yeah, maybe.
You want to talk about the sustainability models? That does not favor Luke Donald tomorrow. I'm feeling at least 78 for him tomorrow.
78 might be a bit much. And that was what Phil shot today, by the way.
Yeah, he stinks.
Yeah,
he's
not
better than Luke
good.
Donald.
Yeah.
Luke Donald hadn't made a cut all year. It's the lowest round he shot in a major since 2017.
Former world number 1, Hunt.
Who can't hit a draw, by the way. Just bizarre stuff.
He also doesn't hit it very far.
No, not anymore. But thankfully, his Ryder Cup, his play will not impact the. Well, I wish it would impact the Ryder Cup. I mean, on the team, but it will not today. So they'll keep going. How's Spieth doing? Is he going to win the Grand Slam?
No, I don't think so. He's 1 over.
That's not going to win the Grand Slam.
He hit a great drive on number 1, and then it kind of collapsed after that. Not collapsed, but he gets.
Sounds like one of my
makes his way
rounds.
around.
Perfect.
Yeah.
This leaderboard stinks, by the way. They got some work to do. I can't have Ryan Fox and there are
Alex
2 guys
Smalley.
I never heard of. I never heard of him.
Okay, Alex Smalley actually is the guy. So Saith Theegala had to withdraw. He was the guy who filled in. He was the alternate. So he's got that little John Daly energy.
How much
going.
grinding would you be doing if you were like the second alternate on Monday and Tuesday? Would you be like trying to lock in, or would you just be like, I'll just sit and wait?
Well, I think those guys probably were locked in because my brother stupidly picked Sahith in our little pool we do. Sahith withdrew from the Truist last week with a neck issue. And he was going to try to tough it out because it's the PGA Championship, but he couldn't do it. So he withdrew yesterday. So it wasn't really that surprising. So I'm sure some of those guys probably saw that and were like, he withdrew last week. There's maybe a good chance he will this week too. So I'm going to work a little bit here. So that's not it doesn't shock me.
Clearly he did. Alex Smalley.
Yeah, Alex Smalley, 4 under. Made an eagle on 7.
Excellent work.
Yep.
How many games does LSU win this week?
2.
2.
Yeah.
Gonna lose one to South Carolina.
I'm just interested to see what happens
South
tonight.
Carolina's throwing a bullpen game tonight too.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna be high scoring, and whenever those games happen, it could go either way. So I think they lose. I think they lose one. It's probably tonight.
I need them to hit the ball. I will be in such a good mood tomorrow if they win. Not that I'll be in a terrible mood if they lose, because as I've laid out, like it's an advantageous spot to have Kate Anderson going tomorrow. Like you feel good about that. But if they win tomorrow, like, man, it's all coming up Tigers, because I just have a hard time believing that South Carolina is going to beat Anderson and Ianson.
No, that's not. No.
Auburn did it, and I think that's it. Auburn's the only team that's done it. So yeah, and Auburn's playing great. So I have a hard time believing that LSU is going to lose both of those games. So if they win tonight, you can just about tuck that top 8 seed into bed. I've heard a lot of people all week saying, "Oh, they blocked it in. It's locked. They beat Arkansas. Lock." It's really not. You look at the RPI, but they can really put that thing to bed tonight. Not to bed tonight, but they can tuck it in tonight if they get a win. So we'll see. We'll certainly react to it on tomorrow's show. We'll have Preston Guy from TigerBait.com tomorrow talking LSU football. I'm sure there's some Saints news I can conjure up tomorrow as well. Have all the reaction from the SEC baseball. And Koki Riley is going to join us from Columbia on tomorrow's show as well. He's there for the Advocates, so you can follow along with him as LSU and South Carolina do battle tonight at 6 o'clock. Missed any of today's show? Catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. I gave you my thoughts on LSU's pitching plans at the top of the show. Luke Johnson talking some Saints schedule. You can find that wherever you find your sound. Hunt on Saints at 1:15. We talked about the Saints schedule and how it doesn't really matter, but we gave thoughts on it anyway. Joe Healy, D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Package with us at 1:30, so enjoyed that conversation. I gave some brief thoughts on LSU and Paul Maneri's legacy here at 1:45, so you can go check those out. More LSU baseball talk in hour number 2, as well as a little LSU football with A.J. Halsey and Bernard Gooden, and why I think that the transfer portal can't just be completely dismissed. There are some really good stories that come out of it, and I think those two could very much potentially be those. So you can listen to all that wherever you find your sound on the Hunt Palmer Show. I'm done. Appreciate Sagrera Farms for being a part of our Thursday shows. Call my guy Sean. Get you some beef in that freezer. Matt's going to drive you home and right up to first pitch at 6 o'clock on After Further Review. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Bathroom can be a safety hazard, especially as folks age. If that's a concern of yours and you've got someone in your life that you think could be in a hazardous situation in the bathroom, you want to do what you can to mitigate that risk. You cannot take it away, but you can mitigate against it. David Duvall and his team are happy to do it. Non-slip floors can be huge. Guardrails, sitting there in slippery areas, do a walk-in tub, showers with benches on them. All these things mitigate the risk that could come into play in the bathroom. And David Duvall and his team do it all the time. Thinking, really need to do that, but paying for it, not a great time. Well, financing available, 18 months, 0% if you qualify. Start that process at One Bath and Closets. Get that free consultation. Doesn't cost you anything to sit down with David and see what he can do for you. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online at onebathandclosets.com.